Hello, hello, guys. Welcome back to Changing the Face of Leadership, Building Eternal Bridges with Dr. Lise. I have gotten this scenario a few times last week and now again at the beginning of the year, so I want to address it head on. There are situations where, I can actually shed light to leadership as a frontline employee that I was. And I can also shed light to the frontline employee or team member because I was a supervisor or a leader as well in corporations, right? So I have the expertise on both sides of the coin. For the most part, guys, most supervisors, if, and not all, but most, have the innate crown of getting up every morning, pumping themselves up to do a good job when they come to work, right? I don't think too many supervisors want to be evil lean or just be a hard taskmaster for no reason. I think at the end of the day, you want your bottom line met so your boss could look at you favorably at the end of the day, but not always. And we know that. So we're not talking about those extreme exceptions. We're talking about the middle of the road supervisor who wants the best, right? And ideally, I remember coming to work wanting to do my best for that day, have a good day, have fun with my team members. I wanted to get the job done. I wanted to walk out the door feeling accomplished, feeling productive, and not beat down. I always tell the C sweepers, if your folks are in leadership under you feeling beat down and so stressed and depressed when they leave work, that's a problem and it needs to be addressed because it won't last too long. So there are four things if you feel you have that one on your team. Number one, here we go. Get ready, buckle up. Number one, supervisor, I need you to get out of your feelings. Hey, small business owner, C sweeper, get out of your feelings. Managers, okay? Because we know we lead people and manage work, and it's a difference. When you have that one who challenges every time there's policy change, they challenge why we have to do this and why we have to do that. And lo and behold, if you're at a meeting and you say, hey, effective immediately, we're going to start going out the back door instead of the front door. And they're going to say, well, why do we got to do that? I have to park all the way on the other side of the building. And walk. Don't you know my legs hurt? And I don't like that. I've always parked in that first spot, always for the last 10, 15, whatever years, right? How do you deal with that? A lot of times, for what I've seen, is a lot of supervisors take it personally. You take the challenges that one employee is giving on a regular basis personally, and you use it as they're attacking you. But in reality, let's put on our thinking caps. In reality, they're questioning decision making. So self-awareness is crucial right here, guys. As a leader, you have to know your emotional triggers. You have to exercise some emotional intelligence, and that is difficult on any level, personally and professionally. But professionally, especially because at the end of the day, you don't want anything to hinder your bottom line, right? You want to get to the vision, the goal, the mission. So you have to think, take a step back, breathe, and understand that person who ask a lot of questions or who may challenge, or and I'm using these terms, they just may ask a lot of questions, not necessarily with the intent to challenge. But a lot of times I found out that supervisors or leaders, they don't like a lot of questions because they are not fully prepared, okay, to answer those questions, or they have not thought out something thoroughly enough to provide answers. What tend to also happen is when Effective decision making is not a norm. A thorough supervisor, a thorough thought process on policy, that tends to drum up a lot of questions on team members. They want to know now the insides, the outsides, the in between sides. Because in the past, you, leader, did not provide them a lot of information, or sometimes too much information, or information that just don't make sense. So I need you to do some self-assessing and figure out what's going on with my decision making to make my people feel they cannot trust what I'm giving them. Change is inevitable, but is it really? Because we say that and have that high expectation of change for our employees, but most supervisors or leaders, they have a hard pill to swallow when it comes to change. Okay? So make sure stay human, but don't take everything that your team members say personally or as a personal dig, because that's not always the case. Number two, find out their why. That person that's yapping, yapping, yapping and always have something to say, find out their why from them, not from your perception of them. A lot of times they, and I'm going to say they as in supervisors, leaders, will fill in the blank on an employee and haven't even had a full conversation with them in weeks or ever, depending on how large your organization is. So you need to know who's working for you, who's helping you meet your goal. You have to get to know them. If not, that's like putting your fate in the hands of strangers. That doesn't make sense, does it? And you probably wouldn't do that. You probably would not trust a stranger to pay a bill with for you if you were to give them $100 and say, "Hey, can you take this to the local whatever and deliver that $100 with this bill slip?" You probably would not do that. So that is what is happening if you do not take the time to find out your employees why. Why are they getting out of the bed every day coming to work? There's a reason, and what's the motivation behind it? And right now, guys, there's a lot going on with the pandemic, which is still full in effect, right? We really need to take number two, finding out their why, to heart, because that's going to help our employees know, one, that we care about them and we care about the ones they love too. I have had a supervisor, she was a director. Her name was Betty Brenham. I worked for her, back then it was Standard Federal Bank. And Betty was not, she was very professional. Okay. I really liked that about her. And she was pretty much hands off. She didn't micromanage, but in the morning she came by, hello, hello, good morning, good morning. In the evening, hello, good night, good night, good night, good night, right? I loved that as my supervisor. I loved it. I'm like, whoo, hands off, no pressure. And then occasionally she'll swing through during the day, if just to kind of chit chat. Anybody need anything? Um, what I liked most is that she got to know us. She would ask about me. I was in the process of getting married, and she would ask about my wedding plans. She would ask about, my honeymoon. She would ask, well, have you thought about car loans and buying a house and different things like that. Nothing too personal, but she kept it where there was some genuine concern, and she was excited about the things that I was excited about, which was my upcoming wedding. And that was our bonding moment, to be honest. So find something of your employees that you can bond with them with. Maybe they have a new grandchild. Maybe they have a new car and you say, hey, my brother is a car enthusiast. What do you got? How much it costs? How much is, if an oil change or whatever, just show interest. With this pandemic, lives have been altered. So a lot of people are habitating now. Different families are blending. That can cause a lot of stress. It's a good thing financially, in some cases, but it's on other cases, it can be stressful. So you need to know what your employees are dealing with. Have they lost anybody? Have them themselves, their finances been threatened? So you want to know what's going on without being too personal. There's a fine line without being buddies, but being intentional with showing compassion, empathy, and sympathy for your employees, because after all, that is going to affect you getting to your bottom line. Okay, believe it or not. Number 3, you want to train the individual for the role, not for your personality. We're not here to re-raise anybody or retrain anybody. Your parents must have did a horrible job on you, so let me reteach you because you're younger than my kids. No, that's not what your role is. And I've seen that, where employees wanted, probably didn't have the best relationship at home with their parents. So they look to the CEO or the leader as, mommy, and the mommy come pat them on the head. They meow, that's not what your role is. Can it develop into that? It possibly can, but that's a fine line that you want to be very careful when crossing. Okay. But you don't want to have them feel that they're inadequate as a person because they're that employee. You don't even want to dim your employees' light to stop asking all those questions. That's getting on your nerves. That should not be a nuisance. That is the ideal candidate that you interviewed for. Okay? That's the person that sat before you and said, hey, I'm a self-starter. I'm an independent thinker. I get things done. I follow procedure. And a lot of times, after you find out a person's why, you will find out they're just a person of order. They have A-type personality, and they themselves want to make sure they perfect their role and they meet expectations, right? So we can't assume that people don't care or they don't like you. And they might. Who cares? Are they the right person in that role? So make sure they're trained to do the job. Okay. When you talk about training, you cannot escape their performance management plan. Everybody should be on a performance management plan. Because if you got this stellar employee, then you need to bottle cap what they have, put it in a bottle and put the cap on it. And not only that, you want them to duplicate it amongst the team. Everybody is not intended to be good at everything. So don't wait till the end of the year when it's time for raises or promotions, and then you want to tell people what they've done wrong. Okay. You want to constantly deal with the performance and the overall environment on an ongoing basis. And secret, if you have a work environment that is not conducive to your personality or what you would want it to be, guess who problem it is? It is the leaders. Yes, it's not the people. They reflect who you are. So you have to be willing, and that's where the self-awareness come in. You want to get to the bottom line. And so you have to set the tone and the expectation of everything. Train your people for the task and not your personality. because then you will meet your mission every time. You'll meet it efficiently. You don't want yes people on your team. That is the worst, and you're setting yourself up for failure as a leader. Now, last and final step here. Um, you want to value that person that's always giving you opposition and challenge and questions. You really do. And it's important that you change your perception of them because you want to get the best. You don't want people to agree with you everything in everything. You want them to challenge you. You may have said stop using the coffee machine in conference room A, and instead you're going to use it in the break room. Well, that person that is that one may say, well, did you realize we put the coffee machine in the conference room because it was closer to our desk and we can just hop off the phones and grab a cup of coffee without disrupting our schedules too much. See, a lot of times people that are inquisitive, they have some value, and you want to embrace them and want to take what they have to say in consideration. You can always say, hey guys, this is my decision, and we got to do these steps in the process to get to the bottom line, to our goal. And then in about 60 days we're going to do another assessment. If we find it's not working, I'm going to ask you for some help. Give me some suggestions that we can implement to make change, right? You have an employee who stays engaged and not one shut down. So just remember that. Keep that in mind. If you have that one is a jewel, a value jewel for the team, because they're not going to just let you willy-nilly make decisions that just doesn't make sense for your goal. Have a good evening.